Hello humans, I'm Batsy, and today we are going to use Redstone and the Create mod to build decorations and make our town feel more alive. Usually, when we talk about Redstone or technical mods, we tend to gravitate towards farms and how to automate things out. I'm obviously the first one to fall into that, and more so given how many farms and tutorials I have made this last year. But the Create mod also allows for really cool decorations and thematical contraptions if we don't care so much about efficiency. Take this little thing for example. This is a farm that Hulk made for our town. The idea is to take all of the excess logs from the wood farm to convert them into charcoal, and with that, he is powering a steam engine over there. The most obvious thing would be to extend a few belts to reach the steam engine, or to use Tom's simple storage to connect both things from underground. Instead, we thought that, wouldn't it be fun to move it along with carts? So you can see moving components around the town and, maybe with that, make the town feel like it's a bit more alive? Sure, it would be better to use a hopper cart and make the station itself be more efficient and also tweak those rails a bit, maybe with bridges and whatnot, but the idea is there. The humans might remember from the first episode that I'm also looking to add minecarts to move items from the mines, and that's exactly what I want to do more of. I want to connect the processing plant with the workstation we made in the last episode. I'm thinking about using a train and shaping it like it's a wagon or a vehicle of some sort. Maybe we could even have random carriages coming and going from a warehouse, or even a cable car that goes up the mountain or something. Oh, and maybe a chimney coming out of the steam engine too. That would look so neat. I want to come here and be amazed at how much movement there is and how alive it feels. But I can't tackle all of that unless I prepare the layout. So let's get into that first and see what we have from there. Editor Batsy, cue the time-lapse. Few days later. Alright, I have some updates on the progress so far. I guess we could start by why it has been a couple of days already. By the time-lapse, it didn't felt that long. Well, on one side, I have been chatting with my team members on what we wanted to do, because obviously, we are working together in this. On the other side, I think I forgot to mention that I have a couple of very important medical appointments this week, and the video will be a bit more messy. Because this week I can't fully commit for more than an hour at a time, it's just easier to do some time lapses here and there, whenever I have the chance. Alrighty, so that aside, what updates do we have? I think I'm mostly done with the main roads. We might adjust some things here and there, but in general, this is looking good, and it gives a much better idea on the scale we're working on. The plan is that next week, we want to build all of the houses in one go. For that, We need to prepare the layouts beforehand and farm a ton of materials during the weekend. But that's for future Batsy to worry about. Today, it's all about the little details and making the town feel like it has movement. I have done some progress in that regard. The humans have seen during the time-lapse that I was making some sort of train. Sadly, I seem to have lost that footage, so let me explain to you where I'm at. The plan is to build a warehouse in here which will work as a storage system. Then extend a train line along this side towards the ore processing building, where I want to fill up the carriage/train with the ores that I'm processing to move them into the warehouse. Between stations, we thought about adding a cobble generator, so it's all hooked to the same warehouse. I'm not sure how that is going to work yet, but I have some solid ideas on how to convert a train to our needs. Even more days later, I managed to figure out how to make it work, and I went ahead and made the base setup to transport all of the ores. Sadly, I pretty much ran out of time, so it won't be possible to build anything else this week. I'm basically recording this at the very last minute. Once I'm done showing you all what I've done, I will edit this section and upload the video right away. The medical appointments took a lot more time than I anticipated, and the trains turned out to be more complex than I anticipated it would be. Regardless, let's take a look at this cool setup I came up with, because I'm really excited about it. It's so cool. The idea was to move all of the processed ores into the warehouse over there. For that, we need ores in the first place, so maybe let's start by the beginning of it. The mining setup is the same as it was before. There is a couple of tracks here that will move carts back and forth. I still need to make a system to move the items from the mines all the way to here, but this is basically how it's gonna bring the ores. Going up these tracks, all the way to the minecart station. In here, I made a basic system to leave the cart in place while a hopper extracts the items. Once the pulse fires up with a delay, it will move the cart back to pick up more ores. This system doesn't move many items at once, but it doesn't really need many of them because we are basically processing the base ores with a single pickaxe. The idea is that mining with Silk Touch makes it so it requires less storage on the digging machine. But the blocks we want to move forward are raw ore blocks, so a crushing setup wouldn't work. Because of that, I simply used a couple of deployers to mine out the blocks again with Fortune 3. Don't mind this weird setup too much. It's a temporal solution, so the funnel doesn't overflow the hopper. The idea is that the press will compact the ores into blocks, which will move them along these belts, and up it goes into the barrel. Here I have a setup that we can ignore too. It was a temporal solution I was using yesterday. All that we need to know is that the barrel will feed the cart when it activates, which will make it so all of these deployers place the ores into the carriage to be transported. I'm going to feed it manually so we can see how it works. And while we wait for the carriage thingy to come back, let's take a look at this messy redstone I've created. It starts with this train observer, which detects trains on this track exactly. Whenever the carriage reaches the station, it will trigger the observer and start the circuit. First, I have an extender for 1 minute, which is here to lock the system and make sure that regardless of how many times the observer triggers, it will only send a new signal at most once every 1 minute. If we wait a second, it should reset the timer. Alright, there it is. So now, the circuit is able to trigger again. When the carriage reaches the observer, it's going to trigger this inverted pulse, which is set to a delay of 4 seconds. Because the pulse is inverted, it means that this latch is always active. This is holding the deployer in place. And the deployer is here to interact with the train station. If there is a train in the station, it will disassemble it, and if it is disassembled, then it will assemble it. In order to achieve this, we need to trigger the deployer twice. That's why we first have a pulse with the lowest delay, which is going to allow the deployer to interact with the station once to disassemble the train. Then, after a delay of 6 seconds, it's going to trigger the deployer again to assemble the train. The second to last circuit is for the minecart, with a delay of 20 ticks to make sure it activates when the carriage is disassembled. That will allow those deployers to place down the ores into the train. And the very last one is the circuit I said before we could ignore. I was basically feeding the system the exact amount of items I wanted, and only after every resupply, which I figured I didn't need anymore, so this will be gone soon. Perfect. We can see it in action now. Now that it's in place, it should disassemble in a second. It immediately fills with the ores. And it's back to being assembled. Awesome. There are these weird messages that say that it can't find the driver, but weirdly enough, those errors seem to do nothing. Because I have set it to wait for 20 seconds, so when it's done waiting, it will find the driver again and move along. I have no idea what are those errors about, if I'm honest. Now that it's coming back, we can see it unloading. And yeah, here I have done the absolute most basic way of unloading those ores without the ores going everywhere. I'm sure there are much better ideas. I just ran out of time entirely. It does work perfectly though. It takes a little bit to get mined, but once it does, it moves the item straight into the barrel. I believe in the warehouse it will wait for another 20 seconds, or maybe I set this one to 30, I can't remember. Then it goes back down to get refilled with more ores. The circuit in here is exactly the same as I have down there, except for this addition, which I made for the card up there, but we can ignore this too. It's not needed anymore. The rest is the same observer that triggers the circuit, with the extender to lock it. The pulse repeater at a delay of 4 seconds, to make sure the train is fully in place. And the circuit that we have seen before to work the deployer, which, this one does have a little addition. I have a train schedule in here. The issue is that if we don't give this station a schedule, it doesn't know where it needs to go, because we just assembled it again in here. So the station needs to tell the carriage where to go next, but if I leave the schedule in the station, then it bugs out with the schedule on the other station at the other end. The weird solution I found out is that if I remove the schedule immediately, then when it reaches the station below, it doesn't bug out anymore. That makes absolutely no sense to me, but it works. We can see it unloading again, because I love it. It's such a cool setup. Obviously, I need to do something about this barrel. All of these should be a warehouse, so at some point, it will be filled with storage things and whatnot. For now, we have the logistics worked out. Oh right, I forgot to explain this station. This was meant to be the cobble generator, but Hulk built it on the other side of the town. That's not a problem because I'm gonna make it a refueling station instead, which makes a whole lot more sense. I'm glad Hulk didn't build the cobble gen here at the end. But this is pretty much the setup. I wish I had the time to build more decoration stuff and visual things that don't necessarily have a function, but yeah, I sadly had no time this week. Next week we plan on finishing the entire town in one sitting, which sounds more ridiculous than it will actually be. Stay tuned for how that will be done. And if you have seen anything on my setup that could be done differently or improved, let me know in the comments below. This is the first time I have made use of trains, and I'm still learning a lot. I'm very happy with my setup, but I'm interested in what other things can be done with it. Oh, and do keep in mind that we have the Steam and Rails add-in on the server, which is likely that some features I showed came from that add-in and not the base mod. But this will have to be it for this episode. I hope you all enjoyed it. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you all next time for the town finale.